Another one of these damn kids jumped in front of my car!
Alright, hope you like that new intro. I'm going to be talking about the Maltese Falcon, 1941 version. Actually, this is a remake. It's based on a novel. It is made in 1931, I believe, first, under the same name. And then there's a version later, 1936-ish. Actually had Betty Davis in it. It had a different name, though. Satan's Messenger, something with Satan in it. Anyways, never heard about those ones. You only probably ever heard of this 1941 version, the Maltese Falcon. Really famous, really popular. It was nominated for 3 Oscars. This is the first film directed by John Huston, who became really popular as a director and a writer. He was actually a writer before he started directing. And he went on to direct some really big movies, Treasure of the Sierra Madre, The African Queen, name a couple. He actually did both of those with Humphrey Bogart as well, who's in this. Later, he did Prizzi's Honor, which stars his daughter, Angelica Houston, Jack Nicholson. So yeah, you probably heard of this, if you haven't even seen it, but it's pretty popular. You know, it's a classic. So it's not the first, but it is probably one of the first film noirs. And if you're not familiar with that genre, it's pretty formulaic. They all follow the same kind of steps. There's a private investigator or some sort of a former cop doing some sort of investigating, and he's usually wrangled into a mystery or a crime by some sort of femme fatale. And then he gets mixed up in this whole crazy plot of mystery, and it's usually set at night. You know, there's a lot of dark, brooding around, spelunking, investigating things. That's a film noir. You know it when you see it. And this is, like I said, not the first, but definitely one of the first, and it really popularized that genre. I'll try to get into the plot a little bit. It can get pretty confusing, actually, because there's so many characters that are talked about right away, and they're not actually shown on screen till later. So, and there's a lot going on too, actually. But I guess actually I'll start with the actors. So it's got a pretty good cast. Of course, Humphrey Bogart is the main actor, and he plays Sam Spade. And like I said, he is actually a private investigator. And one day he's at his office and he gets approached by a woman played by Mary Astor, and her name is Bridget O'Shaughnessy. She comes to Sam and his partner and asks for the protection. She needs some help with something. And Sam's partner, goes and volunteers to help her out. And while he's actually out doing that for her, he gets shot and killed. And that throws Sam into the middle of this, what turns into a big mystery. A bunch of turmoil starts. And we get introduced to a couple more characters, one of them being Joel Cairo, and he's played by Peter Lorre. Peter Lorre was first famous for the movie M, Fritz Lang's M, and he's also in Casablanca with Humphrey Bogart as well. And his character, Joel Cairo, approaches Sam, and he wants something from him. He thinks Sam has some sort of package, but we don't know what it is, an item. We don't know what it is, and Sam doesn't know what it is. That's a good place to mention that, actually, because Sam doesn't know what he's talking about. Either do we, the audience, because the whole story is told from his point of view. So if Sam doesn't know, we don't know. I like that kind of storytelling. That narrative is pretty good in this movie. And so his character, Joel Cairo, wants something. And then a little bit later, we're introduced to another man, Caspar Gutman. Very, very large man. He's played by a guy named Sidney Greenstreet, about over 300 pounds. He's a big guy. He was actually in Casablanca too. And Greenstreet was nominated for an Oscar for his role in this movie. So we have these characters now. Those are going to be our main characters. Sam Spade, Bridget O'Shaughnessy, Joel Cairo, and Caspar Gutman. That is also, Caspar Gutman has a guy that's kind of like his right-hand man, Wilmer, kind of a gunman. So we get involved in this whole mystery plot. Everybody wants the same thing. It turns out, surprise, you probably guessed, this Maltese Falcon. And what it is, it's a jeweled statue of a falcon. It's a gold, solid gold, and it's encrusted with jewels. And Gutman eventually, in a scene, tells Sam Spade what the Maltese Falcon is, how it came to be, you know, the history of it, and then why they're all looking for it. So all these characters are trying to get it. They're all trying to use each other and use Sam to get it. And Sam's trying to protect himself, but at the same time make a little bit, or eventually, hopefully, a lot of money as he starts to learn more and more about the actual Maltese Falcon. And I don't want to spoil too much of the story. Again, you kind of have to watch it. There's a lot to go into it. Pretty complex plot. So, yeah, I don't want to ruin it. And actually, I really like the movie. I'm giving it a 4.25. It's classic for a reason. All the acting's great. Sidney Greenstreet, who was actually nominated for his Oscar for Casper Gutman. I really liked his performance. Bogart, I really liked him. And I was going to say, there's one part of the movie the only part I didn't really like was towards the end. They kind of throw in this whole romantic aspect of Bridget O'Shaughnessy and Sam being in love. They keep saying they love each other, which kind of just comes out of nowhere. And it feels like they just had to shoehorn that in there. And although I didn't like it, it didn't ruin the story too much, because actually the ending's really good, even after that. So that was a little bit of a negative aspect of the movie. And the way they talk is pretty funny. I think it's a little bit of a 40s speak, but Humphrey Bogart, he has a lot of nicknames for all the women he talks to. Calls them Angel and Precious and Darling, and often very quickly in succession. So you get a lot of these really weird nicknames in a row. That's kind of funny to listen to. But also, if you've never seen Peter Lorre in a movie, he's got a weird accent. He's originally German. Well, yeah, he's German, and he has a very soft way of speaking. It's kind of not really feminine, but unique for sure. So he's interesting. But the script is really good. I've actually heard that it's very true to the novel that it's based on, so they didn't... I was going to say something, but I don't want to actually say that. So the script is really good. It's a pretty complex storyline. I was pretty riveted the whole time when I was watching it. So it's definitely compelling. It's a good mystery, good thriller, and a great film noir. It did kind of kick off that whole genre, like I had mentioned. So I got those points covered. I did want to mention, because this is such a classic movie now, and so many people love it, the actual Maltese Falcon props, you can actually see them on a lot of the other posters. That's not as prominent in the poster that I chose or the image that I chose for this blog. But it's looks like a black falcon statue. That has become one of the most sought after and expensive props ever in film history. So I kind of want to talk about it a little bit, because I was looking at some information about it, and it's pretty crazy. So there were multiple Maltese Falcons created. There were a couple lead ones and a couple resin ones. The lead ones were really heavy. They're almost 50 pounds. And the resin ones were a lot lighter for when they actually had to be carried by somebody. So one of the original lead ones was dropped by Humphrey Bogart while shooting or on set, and it crushed the tail of the Falcon. And that one can actually be seen in the Warner Brothers lot or studio tour in California. So they've had that one with the busted tail, and you can see it's all messed up from when he dropped it. And then there were at least two other lead Falcons, and then one for sure resin Falcon props that kind of went out into the general public. One of the lead Falcons sold in the late 80s, early 90s for $400,000, which is crazy, to Harry Winston, the famous jeweler. And what he did with it is even more crazy. He took that Falcon and used it to create a replica in solid 18 karat gold with ruby eyes, silver, and coral claws that could be changed. And then it has a 48 karat diamond hanging from a platinum pendant out of its beak. He made that, and they actually presented it. It was on display at one of the Oscars ceremonies, I believe it was the 97 Oscars. And that replica of the prop, Maltese Falcon, is worth $8 million. Yeah, so that's pretty much what they would have been seeking in the movie. And then, so those had been known about, those prop Falcons. And then there was another lead one that a private owner had, and I believe that recently, maybe a couple of years ago or so, was sold when it was let go by the original owner. And it sold for $2 million, if I remember correctly. And it's funny because that's how much they valued, in the movie, they valued that Maltese Falcon that everybody's after for around $2 million. And then now, a prop that was used in the movie sold for $2 million. It was just a prop. It was nuts. I just had to tell that. I couldn't believe it when I read it. The pictures of the gold Maltese Falcon is pretty cool. So yeah, it's a really good movie. Like I said, I haven't mentioned I want to mention the movie connections. So one of the first older film noir films I'd ever seen was The Big Sleep, and that's also a Humphrey Bogart movie. It came out in '46. Double Indemnity is another really popular one. Touch of Evil is Orson Welles' film noir. Probably one of the best ever is later in the 70s, Roman Polanski's Chinatown. That actually has John Huston in it, the director of this movie. He has an acting role in it. He's really good in that. And then there haven't been too many recent movies that I can think of that are, in this style. The most recently I could think of would be something like Sin City. Has a very noir feel to it. Of course, it's very stylized. It's crazy graphic novel looking. But I really like that movie too, just because I like the genre. Not just a good movie in general. So yeah, those are some of the movie connections. Again, a great movie. It's not, I don't feel like it got dated too bad. Since from the 40s, I've heard some people can't stand black and white. I don't get that. The directing's great. The script, I really love the script. That thing was polished very well, and I heard they didn't improvise on set or anything, and kind of attest to how good of a writer and director John Huston is. And I think this, if I remember correctly, this is the first movie of his that I've seen. So I'm excited to see his other movies and continue to see more Humphrey Bogart movies, because this is the third of his films that I've seen. So I would definitely check it out. It's a classic for a reason. It's very iconic. Definitely worth a watch. And to sign off, I guess the obvious choice, the popular line to use from the movie would be, "Oh, this is what dreams are made of," but I'm not going to use that. I will not use that line, because the best line that I heard in this whole movie, it made me laugh so hard. I was laughing my ass off. So this is a line. I want to read it correctly because I don't want to get in trouble with old Bogey. This is what Humphrey Bogart says to Peter Lorre after he smacks him in the face. He says, "When you're slapped, you'll take it and like it." All right.